Heartstopper's out. Hello everyone and welcome to another video. My name is Lizzie and today we're going to be discussing Heartstopper. In principle, this is a book to TV review looking at the adaptation, specifically like the cast and the story, how it was taken from the book to the TV show. I never thought they did a good job. In reality, this is just going to be like an hour of me rambling and just screaming, I'm living a coal man! So, we'll see what happens. I do have like points that I'm going to say, hopefully, but I think this might just become an unhinged rambling. Spoiler alert, I love the show. I think, everyone did. That's pretty universal. I mean, the fact that it's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes says everything. But as I say, we're going to be looking at some of the nitty-gritty of the cast and the characters and the plot and everything, and I love it so much. The show has been out for less than a week and I have watched it 3 times and reread the entire webcomic in that time. But if you don't know what Heartstopper is, it was a webcomic turned graphic novel that follows Nick and Charlie, 2 teenage boys, as they have an unlikely friendship that then turns into something more. It's a lovely group of friends. It's very wholesome, but also has like a lot of deeper issues and things that are sort of discussed, but you always leave feeling like you've had a warm hug. The new Netflix series covers about probably the first volume and a half-ish, about the first kind of 3 chapters of the webcomic. And it was glorious. It was glorious. It was glorious. There will be basically no criticism. I don't think there's anything I want to criticise. So first of all, we're going to discuss the casting. Obviously, we've all known who the cast are and what they look like for a long time, and visually they all look exactly like their characters. But let's get into it. Let's discuss the cast, because they were all so good. First up, of course, Joe Locke as Charlie Spring. He was perfect. He was just like the embodiment of Charlie. He got that like balance of being kind of like shy and introverted, but also like witty and funny and all those feelings that he has. He captured them so well. Like so well. If you have read the books and the comic, then you know that Charlie's story coming up has a lot of difficulties on the road, and I have no doubt, I'm sure we'll get a season 2. We have to get a season 2, and I have no doubt that Joe Locke will do a fantastic job. But there were just so many little moments that were just so perfectly Charlie. He captured him so well. And so I've been like binge watching character interviews since it came out. I didn't realise that wasn't his accent the whole time. It was a really good like southeast accent, so kudos, Joe Locke, for your accent as well. But yeah, I think he just got that tenderness that Charlie has. And, it was glorious. And then, of course, Kit Connor as Nick. Again, the living embodiment of Nick Nelson. You could tell that he was the veteran actor of the younger cast. He did such a good job. I feel like, and I'll talk more about this later on, I feel like I have a much bigger appreciation for Nick as a character after watching the series. Again, he got all those little moments just perfect, and that balance of sort of the tenderness of his character, but also, he's a popular kid, he's a rugby lad, and I think that balance was just done so well. But he was just so nice. It was so nice. He was just perfectly cast, and the 2 of them together were fantastic. So great. It is so much to the strength of this show that they cast actual teenagers to play teenagers, and you could feel all of those teenage emotions and all of that roller coaster of being a teenager, which was a while ago for me now, but you can feel it. And I thought they just all did such a great job of that embodiment of teenage life and the stresses and ups and downs and how everything feels so much. Let's talk about William Gow as Tao. He was amazing. I thought he was like an unsung hero of the season. I thought he had such a presence to it. He gave Tao so much depth, and you really felt it when he falls out with Charlie at the end, when he gets into a fight with Harry. You could like feel all those emotions and all of that, like, you know, things are changing and he doesn't want them to, and we've all been there, Tao, we've all been there. And Yasmin Finney as Elle, she was fantastic as well. I really liked how Elle's story was fleshed out a bit more. Again, I'll talk about this when we get on to like the plots. But yeah, she was really, really good. And the chemistry between her and Tao, they have that like best mates, but maybe something more just like down to a T. It was so sweet seeing all their scenes together. Perfect casting. Again, perfect casting. Then we have Karina Brown as Tara and Kizzy Edgell as Darcy. What a good pair. Kizzy Edgell, they just embodied Darcy's chaoticness so perfectly. And there were a couple of moments where it was kind of cringy, but like it was supposed to be, you know? Yeah, like Darcy was just so, she was such a like, you know, she means everything so well, but is just so chaotic doing it, and it was glorious. I wish I had known people like Tara and Darcy when I was in high school. And then Olivia Colman was there. Olivia Colman was just there. And she was amazing. Of course she was amazing. Of course. And like everyone, when they first got in the car and they start chatting, I was like, is that Olivia Colman? And then it was Olivia Colman, and I was like, it's Olivia Colman! It's Olivia Colman! It's Olivia Colman! I loved that she was in it. She was amazing. You know, I know they don't give Oscars for Netflix TV shows, but she should get another one for being Nick's amazing mum. The real scene stealer, the absolute star of the show, was Echo as Nellie. Perfect casting, 10 out of 10, deserves all the Emmys, all the Golden Globes. Loved her. What an icon. And we also had two new characters. First we had Toby Donovan as Isaac, who kind of replaced Aled in his role in the story. And I thought he was great. He was really fun. He didn't really have a storyline or sort of do much apart from kind of being in the group of friends. But he was a great addition to the show. I was like, I really relate to Isaac. Like, him just sat there reading the whole time. Yeah, there's just something in him that I related to. And then I saw he had the same Myers-Briggs personality type as me. I was like, that's it. That's what I relate to. And Rhea Norwood as Imogen. I know she's been a controversial character on like various social medias. I won't pretend to know what teenagers now are using TikTok. But I thought she did such a great job of that teenage girl where you've got a crush and you kind of want to go for it, partly because you like the person, but also because you've spoken about it and now your friends expect it, and it's a bit of a, you know, it's part of who you are now. And I thought her storyline with Nick was really lovely, really sweet, and she had the most iconic scene of the whole thing with the, I'm not homophobic, I'm an ally. What an icon. We all know, we all have met that person, and she did it so well. So, you know, kudos to you, Rhea. So casting, my general opinion is perfect. Flawlessly cast. Love it. So that's my general thinking of the cast, a quick overview of the cast. I say quick overview. My opinion is flawless, perfect, loved them all. So let's talk about the plot, what changed from the book to the TV show, whether I think it was good. Spoiler alert, yes I do. Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about it. On the whole, the plot is the same, and rereading the comic since watching the show, there are some things that are literally like frame for frame as they are in the comics, which I loved. Most of the changes, so kind of changes to Nick's friend group and obviously the storyline with Imogen, I feel like that kind of helped it have that narrative over 8 episodes rather than the sort of ongoing comic of like little storylines that get resolved and lead into something else. So I think it was a really good kind of switch to the new medium of keeping pretty much the same plot and just changing a couple of details here and there. Charlie's parents were basically nowhere to be seen though. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of them just like in the background. It felt very much like they were just home alone, you know, all the time. And especially because I think Charlie's relationship with his parents is very interesting. I really enjoy it in the comics, and I would love to see that fleshed out a little bit more. I love how they brought in Mr. Ajayi a bit earlier. I think he works really well as like a sounding board for Charlie and a kind of mentor figure, but also like he's just a tired queer millennial, and I relate to that. And in general, just the fleshing out of the whole Paris squad was just glorious. As I mentioned, I loved Elle's storyline and kind of being able to delve into that a bit more as to settling into a new school and finding new friends. Yeah, I think she's such a great character, and she was played so well, and it was really nice to like see more of her storyline, and it was done really well, and see more of Tara and Darcy and actually see what life was like at school for them, because we don't really see that in the comics. We kind of hear about it from them, but we don't see it. So it was really nice to see that and kind of have Higgs as more of an actual place that drama happens at. That was really nice. And you know, again, I mentioned with Tao, having a bit more friction between him and Charlie at the end just worked so well. It was really good. And of course, all of those key moments in the comic were there, and they were done so well. So their first kiss in that hotel, in the room in the hotel, was, like I said, it's like pretty much frame for frame was as it is, or shot for shot was as it is in the comics. And, you know, running in the rain and sitting and watching movies together. It was lovely. And little moments as well, like Darcy sneaking up behind Tara with a trumpet to try and scare her. I loved it. It was so good. And of course, the beach. How could I forget the beach? The beach. The thing that really stuck out as a kind of probably change in my perception of the story is I really felt like the webcomics are very much Charlie's story, and this felt more like Nick's story almost. I don't know if that's just because I already knew Charlie's story, so Nick's story being a bit more prominent felt like it kind of had more prominence in my mind. But I loved it. I loved that kind of, you know, not just realising he doesn't fit in with his friends, but making that decision that he doesn't like his friends and he wants to make new friends, and that his friends are kind of terrible people and that he doesn't want to hang out with them anymore. And, you know, meeting Charlie, and I feel like we saw Nick's perspective so much more in the TV show, and it was better for it because it was so brilliantly acted. Like, Kit Connor did such a good job of bringing it to life, as did Olivia Colman, of course, because what can't she do? Yeah, I just loved seeing his storyline brought to life. It was so good. I think that's where the storyline with Imogen worked really well as well. It kind of gave Nick more of a storyline that isn't directly related to Charlie, and gave him sort of opportunities for growth and for his decisions that sort of weren't just purely driven by being in Charlie's story. So it definitely felt like a much more kind of, there are two main characters in this show. And when I was on my second viewing of it, then, you know, even though like the final shot is of Charlie, then the final scene was Nick coming out to his mum, and that just felt like such a good way to end the series and to kind of put those two characters on that equal footing, that it did feel like both of their stories equally presented. So we started off with Charlie's story, and then Nick's story is kind of brought in, and by the end they are one story. And let's talk about the production for a second, because like, we all love the music, the playlist, we all love it. Yep, we're all happy. What an amazing playlist it is. The way it's shot, stunning. The lens flares, the little rainbows, all at the right moments. I did spot when they're waiting at the train station to go to the beach, you can see a rainbow in the sky behind the train station, and I was like, it's a rainbow. I was basically on rainbow spotting watch. Like, last time I watched it, I was just like, rainbow, 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 rainbow. And of course, it's the Heartstopper world, so we have some Alice Oseman doodles, and I loved them so much. The little sparks when their fingers are about to touch. One of my favourites is in the arcade when Elle and Tao are playing that like alien game, and it looks like it's in the reflection of Elle's glasses. It's like little stars as she looks at Tao, and it's like, I think it's the most subtle of all of them, of all of the like extra doodles that are added, and it was glorious. And I think those kind of, the extra level of having those little kind of cartoonish moments just emphasize that like teenage feeling of everything feels so much. Every emotion is the strongest you've ever felt anything. And those Heartstopper moments where, you know, the character's heart stops and there is something there to like visualize it, was just a stroke of genius. I loved it. And I loved how the wider world as well was Alice Oseman's world. All of the like artwork on the school walls and on the walls of the train, the banner for sports day, the animations telling you what the schools were all like Alice Oseman's handwriting and drawing style. And I thought that was just such a good way of kind of incorporating the sort of surreal comic things with the world. They are one and the same. There's just a couple more things I'd like to shout out before I finish, and the first one is oddly specific, and that is British grammar schools. I went to an all-girls grammar school like Higgs, and this was such a good depiction of what it's like to be in a grammar school, and I just really liked that because you don't see it very often, and it was a nice like nostalgia to my own school days of, you know, having to use fountain pens, things like desperately trying to get out of sports day, and, you know, every time you do joint stuff with the girls' school and the boys' school, everyone loses their mind, and, you know, orchestra practice, and just like, I don't know, just the vibes of grammar school was really well captured and filled me with joy, but also terror. Nothing quite like being reminded of your school days. So it's a mixture of like nostalgia and also I'm glad that's behind me. I have very fond memories of my school days. I should clarify, I do have very fond memories. But you know, I was a teenager and now I'm not, and it's great. Even more than that though, of course, is the depiction of like wholesome, positive, queer storylines on a mainstream TV show about teenagers played by actual teenagers. I think the reason for the show's success is it is not just an accurate depiction of what it's like to be a queer teenager, it's a hopeful one, but also an honest one. A huge number of the audience for this show are the actual age of the characters, and it's so wonderful that they get to watch this and see themselves on screen, and for those of them who aren't members of the LGBTQ community, to see their peers on screen and to see a world that they maybe don't know much about. And for those of us oldies, it's always nice to have an optimistic, hopeful depiction of what life can be like for queer kids, because we were all been there. We were all there. One more quick shout out on the theme of representation and relatability. The scene where they're watching Pirates of the Caribbean. Perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah, loved it. It was great. I think that's it. I'm sure there's many things I meant to talk about that I've forgotten to talk about. The rainbow lights, when Tara and Darcy are dancing. I love the rainbow lights. And Nick being like, yay, yay, rainbow people. Love it, love it, love it, love it. As I was just saying, I'm sure there's things I've forgotten to talk about. But all in all, I love this show so much. I will probably be rewatching it a fourth time. It's just so great. I'm so glad we have it. Yes, yes, yes. So much love for this show. If you have watched Heartstopper, let me know in the comments what you thought of the show. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Ta-ra for now.